Welcome back to the garage, everybody. We just swapped in a new engine into Project Focus. We got headers, we got an intake swirl flap delete, we've got a high flow side exit exhaust. So today we're going to put the cherry on top of airflow and install a cold air intake. We're going to fabricate up a universal one to save 300 bucks. So besides the better airflow, which will get us maybe 5-6 more horsepower, we're going to install the intake for sound. This thing sounds awesome already with the side exit exhaust, but only under about 4,000 RPM. Above that, it just sounds bored and choked out. And no wonder. This thing has a very restrictive box, and this feeds into another box, which is under the wheel well liner, and then it actually feeds into a second pipe. The actual air intake happens somewhere back here. I'll show you that in a second. We also want to save a bit of weight. Between this box, the other box, and that, it's about 12 pounds, which doesn't sound like much, but I've ripped a bunch of stuff off this car, including an AC delete. So I'm getting close to 2,400 pounds. So we want to save the weight. And of course, it's also going to clean up the engine bay. I got my painted valve cover, which adds 6 horsepower. So here's what we're working with. We got our aluminum pipe, it was 21 bucks. Our cone filter, I think it was 15. And this is neoprene sheeting or gasket material. It's 1/8 of an inch thick. I'll show you what that's for in a second, but all this together is about 45 bucks, and I just looked up what the K&N kit is. It was 388. So even if you have to buy things like hose clamps or, I don't know, a tool or two, you're still going to be well over 300 bucks ahead. And I think I got all this on Amazon. I'll put the links below. I hear a lot of guys say that cold air intakes don't add anything but a little bit of noise. Well, first of all, a little bit of noise is good on a fun car like this. But check out the intake system. The air enters the system here. This is actually in the fender up above the wheel. Look how small that hole is. Down through this pipe, down there, into that gigantic box with a huge filter in it. Through this little pinch point, through this pipe, look how skinny that is. Up into this box, a hard right angle into the throttle body. So that whole thing gets replaced by this. The most restrictive part of it is this 3-inch 90-degree bend. So the intake was definitely the weak link. I might get 10 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually significant on a small car like this. I'm at 2,400 pounds. So of course you want to install a universal intake to save the money, but the downside of course is you've got no place to hook up your sensors. With the way Ford set this up, we can just pull this out here, which leaves this hose attached, and then the only other thing we have to worry about is the O2 sensor down below. Okay, it's pretty straightforward to get off. You got the hose clamp, of course. That should just pop right out, and then you've got 2 8mm bolts here, and they actually stay in there. They're captured. And then back here, you got this little rubber snap-in or whatever it's called, and it should just pop right up. There we go. Now here's the rest of it. I already pulled it out when I was under there installing the new engine. So this sits like this, and that pops in there. And this thing, gigantic box, as if that box wasn't enough, sits down under here behind the wheel well. And then this, look how thin that is, by the way. That's a tiny little intake. That sits like this all the way back under here. Let me show you if I can. So your wheel liner comes off with this bolt and your clips. You're also going to need to get your under tray off, which obviously goes right here. I still have it off from swapping the engine. Yeah, so this is the bottom of that pipe, and then that box sits up in here, and you've got, yeah, right there and right there. You can see I just snapped mine off because I was throwing mine out, but you've got that bolt and the other one right there, and then I just pulled on the top tube, and it just came right out. I don't know if it's clipped up there or not. I just yanked and it popped out. All right, the last piece that has to come out is this right here, and it is a 14 mil. Why is it 3 inches long? There we go. And then the sensor. I always feel like I'm gonna break these. Oh, there you go. Okay, so that pops out, and then to press this and pull, I'm guessing There we go. So what I'm planning on doing is literally just cutting out this whole piece and then JB welding the flange that we make onto the side of the other one, obviously cutting a hole in that one too. All right, let's see how much this whole thing weighs. Okay, as soon as I cut this, there's no going back. We're gonna have to make this work. What do you say, like right there? So I think we should be able to reuse the strap. What I want to do, since it's going to sit in here like this, we'll drill a hole through this way and then cut a notch here so this part will just sit right in there. There we go. And then should pop out. So let's see if we can break this in a good way. Dang, it's like I know what I'm doing. Now this is why you always keep all your old hardware, bolts and screws and stuff. I was able to find a nut and a washer that fit perfectly, so I don't have to run to the hardware store. So I was thinking about using a rubber tube, mostly because it was cheaper. This is about 10 bucks more. This is aluminum, and this is just gonna work a lot better. It's stiff, which means it's gonna be a lot more stable in the car. It won't move around with vibration. And more importantly, when you hit the throttle and the pressure drops when it sucks in air, it won't flex and compress, which will add just a little bit of performance and horsepower. And I've already cut in the slot for the mass airflow sensor. I fat fingered the record button. I just used the cutting wheel and then smoothed it out with the rasp. And of course there is a correct orientation for the airflow meter. The incoming air should hit this right here. So air coming in, slots right in, and it sits pretty flush against the tube. I also did this off camera. This is 1/8 inch neoprene or rubber gasket material. And it should, with the hose clamps, provide a pretty good seal. It already looks pretty good with no pressure on it. So let's clamp this up. All right, that's snug for now. Let's test fit this. We should have plenty of room. This goes here. And that should fit in there. Okay, yeah, this is gonna work. And I finished modding up the strap too. Cut off the excess, rotate it 90 degrees, so my hose clamp should hold it right there. Oh yeah, and this right here, we got a diameter difference between this. This is 3 inches on the inside and this is 2.5 on the outside. So it looks kind of sketchy, but with the hose clamp holding everything down, this stuff will compress, and I don't think we'll have any kind of leak. We can always come back and add some RTV if we do. I'd love to use a 3-inch pipe, but the mass airflow sensor is set up for 2.5, so if we do the 3-inch, there's going to be more air going in than the computer thinks there is, and it's going to run lean. So someday we'll get a tune on this thing, but for now we got to stay with the 2.5 inches. Final tight down here. Yeah, that's a pretty good seal. Make sure that's tight. Yeah, that's not moving around. And finally, our strap sits in here like this. That is not going anywhere. And let's not forget our sensor connector. Is it this way? Yep, and then don't forget your red snap. Okay, that should be it. Yeah, that looks almost professional. I love it. The polished aluminum really contrasts well with the orange valve cover. I don't hear any leaks. My power steering pump is going. That's that horrible sound in here. All right, let's take it for a drive. Well, I can't hear it much so far. My exhaust is just too loud. I think you can hear just a bit of the intake honk right up 5,000 RPM or so. Yeah, I don't have a tach. I just know 60 is 6,500 in second gear. So I have some idea where my RPMs are. Can't actually hear the specific sound of the intake, but just overall the engine sounds much happier above 4,000 RPM. Let's do that run again. My exhaust exits to my left here, just behind my ear, so I really can't hear the intake much. It does sound happier revving above 3,500 RPM, so I'm glad I did it. Might add 5-6 horsepower, who knows. And for 35-40 bucks, definitely worth it. Do another loop through my favorite set of curves. Thanks for watching. There it is. At least you can hear it on at throttle tip.